Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. At least I think it's Thursday. We're going to see if Izzy's there.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how's it
Good.
going?
Are you busy by any chance?
Not busy at all, just chilling.
Just just super relaxed, just hanging out.
So relaxed, launching. I'm not gonna turn my phone to show you what my house looks like right now, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of
I
boxes.
could see that. For those of you who are joining, we have a launch going on right now of a new product line that's going to take women's health by storm. And it's happening in Izzy's house right now. So this is the life of a founder. And you're seeing it right here in action. So welcome to the founder party and
The
launching
founder
this.
party. How are you?
Good. I'm really good. I'm excited that we are about to have this conversation
Me
because I
too.
can't wait for everyone to hear about it and learn about what you and Sophie are doing. Like it's amazing.
Yay.
Um,
Thanks. Very
as I
excited.
do with all of our IG lives, do you mind if I just do a quick intro of you and then you can just fill in where maybe I've left off because my IQ is dropping every day?
Great.
Perfect.
Please do it.
Um, so today we have Izzy Fischer, who is the co-founder of DailyBasis, with her lovely other co-founder who's not here today, Sophie. And DailyBasis is a nutritional line for women to help support balance hormones, really give women the nutritional, foundational nutrition that they need to manage their cycles, help reduce PMS, and really deficiencies that we have throughout our menstruation, and how we can fill in those gaps is what they are looking at. Miss Izzy went to Tufts University. Go Elephants. What's your math? You're an elephant, right?
Well, elephant, yes, it's the tufts is the
Oh,
elephant part.
thanks.
Yes, but I didn't quite finish my master's degree. Just
Okay, fine.
everyone needs to know that.
But meaning you went to Tufts.
I was there. Yes, I was there.
Fine. But I guess my point is that you have your degree in nutrition science or a background in nutrition science, and
Background.
you worked in, I'm going to read it specifically, Human Nutrition Research Center for Aging,
Yes.
which I think is fascinating, and we could
Yes.
do a whole nother conversation on that.
Yes.
Um, And you also founded a company called Plant Bites for elite athletes,
Hmm.
which of course was foundational in terms of how you got here and
Yeah.
founded Daily Basis, and then did stints in leadership and executive roles at Eclipse Foods and Cliff Bar.
Yes.
Uh,
You got
okay,
it. Nailed it.
crazy. And then today we're going to talk about your journey on how you got here and how founding Daily Basis was personal, as it oftentimes is, I think, for founders, particularly women who have a gap or a need state that's not being met and
Mhm.
decide that it's incumbent upon them to take the bull by the horns or ovaries by the horns, as the case may be. Ha ha! Joke.
Haha. The follicles.
The follicles by the horns and create something because it's not there.
Yeah.
And I think that your story is going to be really illuminating for many of women who probably have had similar stories. So we can't wait to hear that. And I think Daily Basis at its core, and I think, Stacy, my co-founder at HotPause Health, and I have so resonated with your story as co-founders around empowerment, right? That your vector and the way that you're leaning into it is through nutrition, and ours is through research information providers,
Hmm.
etc. And so it takes all of us to help women navigate what can oftentimes be a really complicated and frustrating
Yeah.
journey. And so I'll pause. Did I get everything? I
Okay.
didn't get everything,
No,
but I
no,
mean,
you got a lot. You got a lot. Um, I'm super happy to be here and to chat with you. It's been great to connect with other founders in the space. I think that the space is just blowing up right
yeah.
now in the best way. I think that in other industries, it's people are freaked out that there's so many new businesses popping up, but it's so great that so many businesses are trying to support women at all
Yeah.
life stages.
Yeah.
And it's just a really special time, I think, for women's health, and obviously a negative time in many ways. But I think that people like you,
Yeah.
people like us are doing what we can to start the conversation in a way that really makes me feel super inspired by other women, our customers, our consumers, people like you that we're working with. I think that one of the biggest reasons why Sophie and I started this company was way more than just nutrition support. I think that the education that the product provides, I have it here. I can talk more about the product in a bit, but
Yeah.
just so you can put a little like product to the name, this is Daily Basis. Um, it's built in a two-part system because it is reminding people that we have this body that is different than men. And when I first learned about the hormonal cycle of women versus the hormonal cycle of men, I was completely shocked that I didn't understand this about
Yeah.
my body from a young age. And when I started to put the pieces together of what that actually meant, it really changed the game in terms of how I make decisions on a daily basis, how I change the way that I focus and think and work and rest and recover and eat. And so the education and the conversations that we're having with women is like the whole why of
Yeah.
why really we're doing this, because it's been so cool to just see the light bulb go off in so many people's heads, and women that are deeply entrenched in the wellness space. They're still not understanding this, and then they see something that shows them what these moments in their biology is really happening in their body, and they're it's like relief
Yeah.
across women
Yeah.
everywhere. So
Well, and
it's
I think
been
it's
cool.
this notion of you can be back in control. I mean, we
Yeah.
talk about this a lot, which is, that you are in the driver's seat and there are things you can do,
Yeah.
and finding those products that support you where you are at whatever need state that you have,
Yeah.
I think is really impactful. And I think more and more people are realizing, hey, I need help in this, X, and nutrition can has a huge impact
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
how I'm gonna get there and how I'm gonna feel better about my body.
Yes.
So,
Yes. 100%.
okay, so I mean, you and I have had a handful of conversations, but tell us about your personal journey of getting here, right? This moment,
Sure.
whatever that aha moment or light bulb moment
Yeah.
was for you, and said, I need to do something.
Yeah. So there was a lot of things that led to this. It was a combination of my own personal symptoms and diagnoses that I had related to hormonal health. But beyond those, it was actually when I wanted to get off birth control. That was the moment where I learned all of the things that I know now. I had been on birth control since I was
Mhm.
16, like most people.
Yeah.
Um, Put on the birth control pill, and then switched to an IUD at 22, and then was
Mhm.
on the IUD for all of my 20s.
Yeah.
And then I really wanted to get off of it, mostly because I was having some metabolic issues. I was having some acne, irregular periods.
Mhm.
Things just were not really right. And I knew that I wanted to kind of come back into my body. And so I
Yeah.
thought, why don't I get off these fake hormones? I went to my OBGYN. I asked her how I can support my body getting off birth control, because I was honestly really scared to get off birth control. I
Mhm.
think a lot of women are too, because they're on it for so long that it's a little bit taboo. You're on these fake hormones for your whole life. So in my mind, I was like, there's no way that my body is going to be able to handle this transition, because I've
Mhm.
basically changing everything that
Right.
it's used to. And I knew how important hormones were for everything that your body does.
Yep.
And so I asked her, what can I do to support this transition? And she was just like, what? You don't need to do anything. You're going to be fine. I was just kind of like, that seems really
Yeah.
wrong. That just doesn't seem right. And so I started to do research. I read Beyond the Pill by Jolene Brighten. That was the first book that I read. And then I
Mhm.
started to read Elisa Vidi's books. I was listening to Stacey Sims a lot, which I'm
Yeah.
sure you're super familiar with. And I just started learning about the menstrual cycle for the first time in my life at 27. And I was like, why was I not taught that we have these hormonal fluctuations that change the way that we think and feel and act in the real
Yeah.
world, how we eat, how we rest, how we focus. I mean, it really does. Once you understand your hormonal fluctuations and how drastically it impacts how you perceive the world and how you show up, I mean, it's like social to sexual
Yeah.
desire to eating and cravings. It's everything. And I was like, oh, first of all, this is critical information for me. Someone who pushes
Yeah.
myself constantly, is always doing way too much, always asking myself why I can't do more. But beyond that, what I learned from these books was that most women are really, who menstruate, are nutritionally deficient in critical nutrients that help hormonal production, hormonal secretion, hormonal balance, and can have those impacts that can last all the way up until
Yeah.
perimenopause and menopause. Like
Yeah.
it's affecting everything through these nutritional deficiencies when you have them your
Hmm.
entire life, basically. Birth control exacerbates a lot of those. And coming off the birth control pill or the IUD, supporting with nutrition can really help ease the
Yeah.
transition. Um, and so that was kind of the first moment where I started to learn about how nutrition plays a role in supporting hormonal health, but also more than that, I started to understand all of the different behaviors that can support cycle health that was also going to transition me into the post-birth control world, get my cycle back. And I did. I mean, I got my cycle back almost immediately with following the nutrition protocols and didn't have painful periods, didn't have irregular cycles. It was quite seamless. And I think it's a tool that a lot of women are missing, and their doctors are not supporting them with
Yeah.
these tools in the right way.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, just to clarify though, so fake hormones, they are synthetic. So meaning as
Yes.
opposed to being, they are molecularly the same.
Mhm.
They are just made, they're not
They're not,
bioidentical.
yeah, right.
So correct.
They're not
And so,
bioidentical.
so I think that, so for example, I had a Mirena for years. I
Hmm.
mean, she just lived with me for a long, long time. Um, And so that when you have that in your body, it is both a contraceptive, right? And so I mean, for a lot of people who don't want to get pregnant, and we get this question all the time, like, can I get pregnant in perimenopause? And it's like, yes,
Yeah. You have a
yes, you
cycle.
can. And so I think that just as for those women who are still on it, it is they are legit. And our medical advisory board is like, hey, if that's you have to choose your
Yeah.
path.
And
But I was just going to
birth can,
say that the nutrition is a huge component
yes. Yeah.
of the pillars of which, when we are in the driver's seat of our health, nutrition might be number one. I mean, like, you got to make sure that you're putting good stuff inside. And I think, to Izzy's point, if that is off, it can throw
Yeah.
everything off. And so
Yes. Totally.
I would do that for
Yeah,
sure.
and we are, as a business, we are 100% for birth control if that's what people want. It's a great
Yeah.
option. Like, we are not the people that are saying that people should not be on birth control. I wanted to get off birth
Yeah.
control for personal reasons, and that was kind of the catalyst that helped me understand more about nutrition and hormonal health. But people who are on birth control, the reality is that it does deplete nutrient absorption,
Yeah.
and that's okay. That's knowledge. And that's something that women can take and leverage things like supplementation to really help their body be supported. And the supplementation is not the only thing, it's one of many, many
I would
tools.
say also what's been a fascinating journey, and it's different for me in different parts of my life, but fertility was one, right? Like this
Yeah.
notion of trying to get pregnant many many years ago at this point, but that was my first foyer into understanding this extremely complicated but beautiful, like, how magical our brain is and our ovaries are. And you're like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Like, how smart, like, how brilliantly biologically evolutionary did our bodies, it's really a miracle in
Yeah.
my mind, how profound what we do every single month
Yeah.
is. And so, but for me, it was fertility. That was the
Yeah.
entry point.
Because most
And then
people's, yeah.
yeah, and then the coda for me was taking out my IUD because I just thrown her in, being like, I have to keep humans alive now, so I can't think about anything else. And my IQ dropped with every child. So, and then I came out of that kind of fog of war, and I took out my IUD similarly because I wanted to understand, like, where was my body? I just needed to
Yeah.
know, like, where was
Yeah.
she?
Yeah.
Because I hadn't paid attention to her for so long,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so I think you see these bookends often when you're trying to get pregnant, or if that's something you want to do, and then when you're like, and I'm done getting pregnant, I never want to be pregnant again. What's happening? So
Hmm.
anyway, keep going.
Yeah. No, and I think that that's those when we were doing our initial research on where consumers were at, I think that was a big thing that we learned was there's kind of these points in which women start to pay attention and learn about
Yeah,
their health. It's fertility or pregnancy. It's coming out of
postpartum.
pregnancy when they're like, oh my God, postpartum, what is
Yeah,
happening in my body? It's getting off birth control, but it's also things like they have really, really horrible
yeah.
periods, or they're suffering from PCOS, or they're having
Endometriosis. Yeah,
endometriosis. And this is another catalyst that we see people start to delve into using nutrition as support. But we're trying to communicate to women that because there's not a lot of research done on menstruating women because of their menstrual cycles as
that's right.
being a difficult thing to study, the nutrition interventions that are offered to women are not actually tailored for women. The nutrition solutions are being offered to men and women as if they're the same biological
Right.
person.
Okay, so let's
So
talk about
that's
the
challenging.
ingredients that you chose, because that to me is when, the conversations we've had, you've been so intentional and really diligent about
Mhm.
what you're putting into these products
Yeah.
and why.
So it's built in a two-part system, like I said. So to start, you have Daily Basis 1, which
Mm-hmm.
is follicular phase support. So this one is primarily to replenish from menstruation. That's the main purpose of it. But it also serves as a daily multivitamin for women. So the medical experts that formulated the product, they wanted to focus on the replenishment from
Mm-hmm.
menstruation. So that's going to be increased amounts of iron. It's going to be your zinc, magnesium, and your B vitamins as your primary base in this form because that's what you're losing when you're bleeding every month, blood and tissue. Lots of women are iron deficient and deficient in these
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
minerals. And so that was the first priority for Daily Basis 1, but it also has a whole gamut of ingredients that women need to support just their daily nutrition needs for all of your other functions and mechanisms. So, to support immune health, energy, hydration, supporting those things going into ovulation. So, healthy blood flow for follicular development. A lot of these things are in there purposely just to support the menstrual cycle and the functions that your body is actually going to carry out. Daily Basis 2,
Mm-hmm.
blue,
Yep.
supporting the luteal phase. This one you take around ovulation, so 15 days after, about, depending on your cycle. And then you take that up into your next period. And this one has, again, your daily nutrient needs, so vitamin and mineral blend that you'll see in a daily multivitamin. But then it also has an herb and botanical blend that can help decrease inflammation. We like to say decrease inflammation. That's also a buzzword, and
Yeah.
lots of people are saying that. What does that mean?
Yeah.
When you're heading into your period, there's this thing called prostaglandins that are produced,
Mm-hmm.
and prostaglandins can be something that can cause inflammation. And a lot of nutrients, specifically herbs and botanicals, so that's like your curcumin, your turmeric, your CoQ10, these types of nutrients are going to help decrease prostaglandin production to help reduce some of those symptoms
Definitely.
that are as a result of the prostaglandin. So cramps, headaches, brain fog, mood swings. Both of the formulas also have a really awesome blend of amino acids to
Mm.
support with the gut-brain barrier that can be absorbed in the lower intestine, help with oxidative stress production so that any of that stress that you're getting throughout the cycle, specifically in the luteal phase when progesterone is high, you're reducing that sort of stress on your body and helping to support with amino acids, which is super critical for women to take amino acids. Um, There's a lot of other things in there, but those are the kind of primary focuses that are the bulk of the formula.
So is this a replacement for a woman's multivitamin?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. The only thing that's not in there is DHA,
Okay.
EPA, fish oil, because we really tried to put it in, but it just,
Why? Did the shelf life get impacted and was there a smell?
oh my God, the smell was just unbearable. We really wanted to put it in because one thing to know is in these formulas, the ingredients are specifically formulated to support each other. So, for example, vitamin C is a great example of a vitamin that helps absorption of other vitamins and minerals. You can't really absorb certain things without having others with it in the body. So, the DHA EPA is actually one of those. So what we will probably do is either offer one eventually or just recommend that women take a
Take
fish oil with this formula just to make sure that you're actually getting what you need. Because I think that's something that we have seen in the supplement market, and I know you and I have talked about it a lot, is there's a lot of pushing out products and there's not a lot of educating on how you can actually supplement so that it works correctly and you're actually absorbing these nutrients in your body. So that was a big part of how we formulated
yeah.
it with the medical experts that helped us do the formula.
And so talk about your medical experts because you know that I mean I this is my favorite thing is nerding out on medicine. I should like why did I not go to med school except
Oh,
I
same.
except I know why. Tell us about that process and why it was important to you and
Yeah.
Sophie when you created Daily Basis.
Yeah, so Sophie and I both have a consumer products background. Like you said, we worked at Cliff Bar, that's where we met, and then I had started a CPG brand in the nutrition space, but it
Mm,
was fruit chews. It didn't wasn't super technical, and then vegan ice cream and Cliff Bar. So I both of us knew how easy it is to launch I mean, it's not
it's not
easy, but
easy. I just want to qualify that it's really hard. So what they have done is really, really, really hard. Just so you know.
it is. It's very hard. However, in terms of like anyone could do it. If they wanted to launch this and they didn't have a medical background, they could do it. They could put strawberry powder in a bag and call it a supplement. So there's a it's a
Yeah,
wild west a little bit
I
is
would
what
agree.
we knew going into
Yeah,
it, and so we wanted to make sure that what we were formulating and putting into the world was going to be super credible and actually worked
yeah,
for women, because the supplement industry is really difficult to sift through right now, and as a consumer of it, I mean, I don't know how to choose a supplement brand that's safe or effective, and I wanted to create something that I knew was going to be that. So we initially, when we had the idea, we approached a functional medicine doctor who I had worked with most of my life, actually. It was my own functional medicine doctor
yeah.
who I told them the idea and they were super interested and they thought it was really needed. They'd worked in women's
Hmm.
hormonal health for 20 plus years, specifically helping women with fertility and getting
Yeah,
pregnant. And so they first created the base formula, and then what we wanted to do, because of the skepticism that we learned about across the health system, which I'm sure you learned too, people are quite skeptical of all different types of
yeah,
doctors. They're skeptical of MDs, of OBGYNs, of functional medicine doctors, of nutritionists. There's a lot of baggage with every type of doctor, depending on who you are. And so we wanted to get a really broad perspective of people from all different types of backgrounds to
yeah,
make sure that this formula was more holistically developed instead of developed by just one person or by two people. And so that was the initial process that we went through. And then we're right now going through and already iterating on the formula. We've just launched it, but we're already iterating on it because we are constantly getting feedback from OBGYNs and endocrinologists and all of the different health experts that we're talking to every single day to iterate and make it better, whether that's taking something out that maybe is too much and we don't really need during the day, or whether that's increasing folate is one to make it more strong for a prenatal. There's all these different things that we're working on constantly because we really want to put something in the world that's
yeah. I
effective
was
instead
going to
of
ask you
something
about
that's
a
unneeded.
prenatal blend and whether this replaces a prenatal vitamin, which again
Yeah.
is a fascinating history lesson when you go back and understand how prenatal vitamins occurred and some pretty significant gaps that happened in
Yeah.
terms of access because
Yeah.
of knowledge gap of what folic acid does and the
Yes.
depletion of does not
Yes.
for certain groups in this country that didn't have access to them. And so I
Yes.
think it is, but if that's wonderful that you guys are already starting to think about innovation in terms of supporting that
Hmm.
demographic whom I think would just, if it's replacing the multi, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
job.
So
So yeah,
it does serve as a prenatal right now.
okay.
We want to make it more a little
Yeah.
stronger in that aspect. We have the
Oh,
5-methylfolate in there right now,
awesome.
which is the good form of folate to have. So that we want to increase that for the next formula because I think right now it's kind of on the edge. It depends on the prenatal that you look
Yep.
at, but our OBGYN has said that she would be comfortable using it as a prenatal, but that there's some small tweaks to make it even better.
I
So
mean,
we're stoked about that. Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay. Question for you. What are the levers? Because obviously you're using daily basis. Check. What are the levers that you include? What is your kind of yes and in terms of the approach that you are taking to help balance your hormones and your journey, so
Yeah.
to speak? Um,
Um, I would say the biggest thing for me is reducing stress. I think that that is the thing that I overlooked for so long, and that's something that Sophie and I bonded over really early on is we were just go, go, go. We were exercising crazy amounts, we were under eating, we were stressed out in our work, we were completely over the top all the time, firing on all cylinders.
yeah.
And I think that the biggest thing that has changed how my period and cycle shows up, which is a way to determine how healthy you are, was not doing so much all the time and
Yeah.
taking
What are
a
you
second
talking
to
about?
relax.
You just started a
I,
CBG brand.
I'm, li-
How is that reducing stress?
why I'm like, I'm saying that, and then yesterday I was having a conversation with Sophie, and we were like, "I feel so great when I'm firing on all cylinders." And I was like, "This is not healthy for us."
You're
But
a
no, seriously,
you're a stress junkie.
I know it's true. But breath work, huge
Yeah.
for me. Every morning I do breath work. Just not doing so much is big, but also paying attention to those two phases of the cycle is really huge for me. I think that a lot of women do complicate it with there's the four phases of the cycle is how you're typically talking about it with ovulation, menstruation, follicular, and luteal. But if you step back and kind of just look at the two macro phases, so the high hormone and low hormone phase, you
Yeah.
can think of it as estrogen versus progesterone. And if you know that estrogen helps increase energy, you feel more social, you feel more beautiful, you want to do more. Those things are really helpful information to know. And so you can maybe schedule more social events or not worry so much about rest or
Yeah.
getting a lot of sleep.
Sleep.
And then vice versa for the luteal phase, you're going to be more tired. You're going to feel more overwhelmed. You're going to feel more stressed naturally. And so just knowing that information and lightly planning around it, I think is a really big unlock for a lot of women.
Yeah. Okay, this is the big $1 million question. Where can women find you and purchase daily basis?
Well, on our website, dailybasislife.com. We just launched today, so we're super excited about that. Woo woo. If you have anyone in your life who you think would benefit from this product, share. And then you can follow us on Instagram and link in bio
Link
to purchase.
link in bio.
Link in
And we will put
bio.
we will put everything into this conversation and shout out to the two of you. It's I mean, knowing how much goes into building any brand, much less a CPG brand, which there are so many moving parts, and anybody who's launched a consumer products good in any of the spaces, call it a bar or a beverage or a supplement, it's a huge feat. And so we're so just impressed and like so grateful that women like you are coming to the table with innovation and thoughtfulness on how we can better address our bodies and our overall health. So thank
So
you for thing. And
Yeah.
congratulations. Hopefully you guys, gonna toast with some champagne tonight with a little daily basis, maybe like a little daily rim, like a
Maybe,
burger.
yeah. Maybe, yeah. I'll send you a pic.
Yeah, 100%. You're like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna go to dinner tomorrow night. We were like, we need to celebrate the small
you
things.
do.
We need to be better about that.
You do. I
Yeah.
mean, I think again, we've had this conversation that it is really hard, and so having a community and a tribe of women to encourage you and support you in small ways and in big ways, and it can be anything
Yeah.
in between. I think is so important, and we're so grateful to have you in our little tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We love it. Well, thanks for
awesome.
having me
Thank
and
you.
good luck with everything and we'll chat soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.